It's something I think about sometimes, like
Are you
Galactus, squirrels, or
are you trying to say that you want to go back in time and retroactively abort Stan Lee so Jack Kirby can take over the Marvel Universe?
uh, maybe. I definitely would like to give him like more like credit and give him more full time on it, just because I feel like he right some wrongs and everything. And also the guys who like really made Marvel probably been given more like creative leeway. Everett, Simons, just the guys who really the ones who did the actual work, mm, like actual work.
So we're
So
so,
like
so this is we're gonna get a time machine and we're gonna go back in time.
kill Sam.
What? No, no, no. What? No. That's
I
what.
mean,
That's
he did contribute. Like I feel like that's the thing. The new thing is to hate on Lee and be like he didn't do shit. But I mean, he had to have contributed something.
okay.
I feel
No,
like it's that weird
I'm I'm
thing where he
I'm going to clarify myself. We're not going to go back
okay.
in time and
Um,
kill Stan Lee. We're just going to
um,
go back in time and kick his dad in the balls so that he comes out a little retarded with a little more humility. That's all. That's
well,
all.
definitely with a little more humility.
Yeah, that's all.
Maybe taking a back seat, knowing when to let his betters, like just being in control.
Yeah,
Guys like
I think that's a
Simons.
positive. That's a more positive, peaceful Silver Age style solution to this problem that we've built for ourselves because we don't have enough problems in the world.
Mm,
And
fair enough.
speaking of problems, I'm the mystical green beanie, and hey, you didn't know I was doing a little intro there. This is my buddy Greg, who I've wanted to have on the show for quite a while. Um, and yeah, just say something. Say hi to the people, Gregoroni, Gregopolis,
Um,
Gregoroni and cheese, Gregma and foreskin,
well, hello
Greg.
there. Hello there, friends and fans and everyone else. I know that MGB has wanted me here for a while, and I've wanted to be able to, sit here and talk to you guys about comics and the such. So I'm glad he let me be here, and I'm glad we could have this conversation.
Yeah, only with your leash on with your maid outfit. If you're not wearing the leash and maid outfit, then it's not a real podcast. It's not a real show.
Fair enough, fair enough. I'm here to make you look good.
Make me look good. You're the star attraction. Get out there, work them streets.
Oh, I figured I was here to like we were here to bounce ideas off each other, and I was also here to like just like shit talk. Like I don't know, am I supposed to be your hype man, or am I supposed to be the here guy who like sort of like shits on you, the host?
No, I'm your pimp. Now get out there and do the dance.
Yeah. Put on the red light, Roxanne. Come on.
I, Roxanne, nobody told you to stop with that red light. Put it back on. You do have to
Yeah.
worry tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think about 48 Hours when I hear that song. I don't know. Because it's like the main song for that movie.
Wait, is there a movie called Roxanne?
No, no, no. The movie 48 Hours with Eddie Murphy. He's singing that song at the beginning, and he sings it a lot throughout the movie, if I remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I do remember he sings it pretty heavily at the beginning of the movie.
Huh.
Yeah.
I know. I think I know exactly what movie you're talking about, but I haven't seen it in so
Yeah, you
long.
haven't seen 48 Hours in a while. It's him and a white guy named Nick Nolte. It's a buddy cop thing, one of the first buddy cop
Oh,
movies.
is it like in that whole like Hollywood sludge machine of everyone trying to rip off Lethal Weapon because Lethal Weapon's like a really good movie?
Actually, fair fun fact, it came before Lethal Weapon, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a white cop and a black ex-convict. 48 Hours. There was also another 48 Hours that came out like a couple of years after it, but the first one I'm pretty sure preceded uh, the first Lethal Weapon. Yeah,
Interesting.
most
I
positive. But
I didn't know that.
yeah, it came
Well,
out in
the next
1982, I believe. 1982.
the next Black Family Cookout we have, when we pick the obligatory Eddie Murphy movie, I'm gonna pick 48 Hours just to like refresh my memory.
Yeah. Sure, the first one's pretty solid. This one's okay, a little less good, but a solid movie.
Is it better or worse than
No,
Beverly Hills Ninja?
you mean Beverly Hills Cop?
No, Beverly Hills.
The one with Chris Farley?
Not Beverly Hills Cop. Wait, what's
No,
the one
you
with
said
the dude who's
Beverly.
like he's the white dude is a ninja. It's like it's
Yeah,
basically Kung Fu Panda, but like 20 years before Kung Fu Panda was a movie.
yeah. Beverly Hills Ninja with Chris Farley, the guy who OD'd from SNL.
Holy crap! Yeah, I'm getting my SNL dudes mixed up. Yeah, that is Chris Farley. Okay.
Yeah, Beverly Hills Ninja. I forget what year that came out. Let me Google it. Beverly Hills 97. Yeah, so it came out 15 years before.
Huh. Weird.
Oh,
Well,
oh shit. Chris Rock was in Beverly Hills. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
well,
They
yeah.
were all friends.
Oh wait, no, I'm racist. I got my black guys mixed up. I thought that was Eddie Murphy for some reason, but no, that is Chris
Oh,
Rock.
shit. It also has Robin Shao, the dude from Mortal Kombat, the one who plays, I think, Liu Kang.
Yeah, because every ninja
Yeah,
movie has to have that one Asian guy who's literally just he plays all of them in the 90s.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Robin Shao. He played Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
He was a great Liu Kang, by the
Ah,
way. I
shit.
like that delivery
He
of
was.
"Your
Don't get me
soul
wrong.
is
He
mine."
was
That's
better than the one we have now.
uh, hmm, I don't.
In my opinion, he's better than the one we have. The one that came out in 2019, 2020. I think he's better than that one. That guy doesn't really have a personality, if we're going to be honest. I mean, that's just my opinion. You in the audience can disagree. But I feel like Robin
I'm
Shaw was
trying to
better
remember
than
that movie now because I remember checking out when like we start following like the OC of that movie, who's like not uh Liu Kang,
yeah.
and I'm
Everyone
like,
thought he was
wait,
supposed to either be Liu Kang or like a descendant of Scorpion, which he is. I just like, oh, sorry, spoiler
well they make him a
alert. The
descendant of
main character.
Scorpion, but it's like,
Yeah.
wait, he's the chosen one, but Liu Kang is literally in your movie. I don't get why you made that choice.
No, well, that's the thing. They introduced Liu Kang and shit, what's his name? The one with the hat. I always forget his name because he's such a broken character to
Shao Kahn?
play. Yeah,
No, not Shao Kahn. Kung Lao.
I think about Wow,
Fuck,
like,
I should know
I
this.
think he gets old. But
I'm like going through Mortal Kombat 11 like right now. Um,
I mean,
oh well,
on
but
that movie, it was
yeah,
okay. It was fun, but it's like one of those things where it's like
yeah. I mean, I had
it
fun
was a
watching
fun
it, but
movie.
like it's also like not a
Yeah, fun.
when you watch the animated Mortal Kombat movies, it's very evident how bad the live action one kind of was.
Most definitely, yeah.
Like holy
I
crap,
mean,
those movies are really
yeah.
those movies don't have any right to be that good. It's
I
kind of
mean,
bizarre.
it makes me sad because the live action one, especially the new one, it did have some like strong moments. Like the dude who plays Kano was funny. I like him in other stuff. Like I think he was in House of Lies. He's a funny dude. Plus they got that dude from a bunch of like Indonesian movies to play Sub Zero. I love that guy. Plus
Yeah,
you know, he
I don't
plays
know. It's
Scorpion. He's great in everything.
he would have
And
been a
it's
great
that
Scorpion
older
20 years ago.
Asian.
I mean, he's
Oh,
good. Just
he
like
most definitely. But he's now an older dude. He's like damn near in his 50s or older, old. Been in everything. He's like, okay, I'm looking him up now. Hiroki Sanada. He's like the Japanese dude who's basically in everything. When you
yeah,
think of Japanese,
it becomes one of those things
he's
where
in
it's like, oh, does anyone in Hollywood know any other Japanese actors, or
right
we're just
because
picking
he's
him
in
because we know he's Japanese.
right exactly. He's in the Wolverine. He's in Endgame. He's in the Last Samurai. He's literally that one Japanese dude who's in every fucking movie. And it's like I get it because he's great, but it's just like you still don't know any other Japanese people.
Um,
Like, you
no,
no other Japanese. Yeah, that's exactly. They know no other Japanese
it's funny because
people.
I remember when the Valiant cinematic universe was a thing that was like briefly talked about. um, they were pitching him as no, not him. God damn it, who's the other guy? He was just in those like really awful Godzilla movies that started out good but kind of devolved into
Oh, that guy,
complete
the
garbage.
one who Christopher Nolan always
Yeah, I can't think
uses.
of his
He
name. It's on
played
the tip of my
a
tongue.
ghoul. No,
Huh?
no, give me a sec. Give me a sec. He's that one Asian dude. I'm gonna
Oh
Google
wow,
it.
that narrows it down quite a lot.
Yeah, that one Asian dude.
that one
Christopher Nolan.
that
Well,
one
no,
Asian dude with the
it's
face.
who Christopher Nolan uses. Oh, Ken Watanabe.
Yes, Ken Watanabe. Yeah. Um, it's literally him and and
Rookie Sonata.
yeah, Roki Sanada. Those are like the two Japanese actors in Hollywood.
Yeah, they're always used. They're always used. They're either yakuza bosses or samurais or like mystical mystical like kung fu teachers. It's like that's the only roles that Hollywood knows how to put them in. It's like
I was very surprised
uh,
at the restraint that Netflix showed in not casting either of them in the Netflix Daredevil show. I was like, oh,
oh dude,
we
you know
cast
they
another
wanted
actor.
to cast
Nice.
those dudes. No, no, you know they wanted to cast Hiroki Sanada. I guarantee you they would have casted Hiroki Sanada if he was available. Because it was like they know no other Japanese character. Like I guarantee they would have picked Hiroki if he was available. They were like, yeah, hey, we need a Japanese actor. You know there are other Japanese actors, right? There are other Japanese actors.
No,
Oh my
you are
god,
Japan.
you're literally the whole Japanese experience. The whole
You
like
represent
when I
all of
think
it
of Japan,
in the same way that Morgan Freeman
you're
represents all of black people who can read.
the all all the black people that white people like feel comfortable around. Get
Yeah,
me Morgan Freeman
him
or
and James
maybe
Earl Jones,
Samuel L.
but
Jackson
James Earl Jones
or
is like
James Earl
actually
Jones.
old and can't move anymore.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's essentially just that, but it's that but for like Japanese actors.
Yeah,
It's either Hiroki Sanada or Ken Watanabe.
yeah, but I guess we kind of like already kind of gently love tapped, knocked on the door, you know, like kind of cock knocked the topic.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess.
so yeah, so today I really wanted to bring you on to talk about uh, geek culture and how over the past like decade and a half, geek culture is kind of I guess as the thumbnail of this video, and I guess the thing you're looking at if you're watching this, um, implies how geek culture kind of transformed into pop culture,
Mm.
and kind of what that turned geek culture into, and how that like has an effect on, the comics that we read and love, and the characters within the comics, and even like video games and other TV shows that are considered like geeky and niche, or I guess were considered geeky and niche at one point in time, or now that they're these AAA blockbuster Hollywood juggernaut things. Me being charitable there. Uh, so yeah, no, it's just. I mean, my audience kind of knows how I feel about this sort of thing, or at the very least, they kind of knew how I felt about it. Although I'm kind of taking a less militant stance on these kind of things nowadays as I get a little older and care less. But I want to know what you think. So like, what's your opinion on like all this stuff in like a broad general kind of sense?
In a broad general sense,
Well,
okay,
the appropriate
so
term is womanly sense, but
well,
damn, no applause for my future moment. God damn
well, no, it was something. It was truly something. My point was going to be simply
it.
okay.
That's an
So
inside joke. Like
you
only
want to
like
look.
two people who watch the channel who know me in real life are gonna get that. God damn it. People are just gonna think I'm a raging
Well, I'm,
misogynist.
no, I no, they might, but that is fine. Uh, maybe they're here for that raging nostalgia. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I'm gonna truck through it. So for for my sake and for the audience sake, um, you look at the way certain characters have changed because of their pop culture equivalent, and sometimes it works for the better, but a lot of times it works for the. I mean, if you want to look at the most obvious example, look at the way Tony Stark was written between the years 2008 and 2018, and you will see a character who went from what he was originally, a weapons manufacturer and an alcoholic, and a guy who was really trying to find the best way to, I guess, fight threats and also to be his best version of himself, to essentially a jokey, sort of uninteresting and unfunny character. I mean, like the Tony Stark. If you have you been able to enjoy a Tony Stark comic in the 2000s that wasn't written by Matt Fraction?
Are you asking me? Like,
I mean, like the way he gets written in big events, the way he
um,
gets written in like the comics, he gets written like this jokey, like he gets written like he's Robert Downey Jr., but in like
yeah.
regular form, and
Well,
I
I've
hate
I've
that
noticed
shit.
that, and that's that Marvel synergy, um, which, to be fair, I know people rag on the MCU for this and kind of like the MCU's become the whipping boy for this kind of like
Mhm.
this argument against uh comic book movie synergy. But I mean, to be fair, that's been a, a Marvel thing since like the '90s.
No, I
Um,
get that. They
and not even
changed
yeah, and not even a
Blade
Marvel thing. That's
because
that's also a
Blade
DC.
was.
That's a heavy DC thing too.
No, no,
Um,
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
because I
But
mean,
I mean,
you go back and like read some of those Batman comics from the '90s. Batman just starts wearing a black suit, which looks really fucking cool, mind you. The Troika outfit when he comes back from having his back
no, I
broken,
get that.
like
Yeah,
it looks cool. But you're very we know why you changed Batman's costume. You know,
yeah.
we also know why Superman gets like the ice crystal Fortress of Solitude after a while. You know,
And why he looks like Christopher Reeves in every other comic book. Like
yeah,
why he gets drawn like Christopher Reeves, and he gets the Christopher Reeves haircut even when he's drawn like Henry Cavill. And it's like we
yeah,
get it,
which is
like
also weird
we
because like
get
that
it, but
is a quintessential 1970s haircut that you're just
and
kind
it
of
makes no sense
transposing
on
on
a
like a
modern day character.
no,
It makes
it's so
no sense
weird.
on a modern day character.
It doesn't fit.
Legitimately.
It doesn't fit.
Oh
Um,
my God, it pisses me off. And there was a time when even Tom Welling from Smallville had he sort of had the Christopher Reeves haircut. And I was like, my man, what are you doing, bro? It's a 70s haircut. Like, why? Like, we can't get past Christopher Reeves. The fingerprint he left on Superman was so strong that we legitimately almost can't get past it.
I mean, Jeff Johns literally had an entire run after Infinite Crisis where he just made Donner Superman the comic book Superman, which
Yeah.
I don't know how that like because it's still technically post Crisis Superman, so I don't know how that fits with like any of the '90s stuff with
No.
the post
No.
Burn, Louise Simonson, Dan Jurgens like Triangle era because a lot of that stuff hinged a lot on Byrne's interpretation of Krypton. I
Well, I mean,
I don't get it.
the problem with Johns is he always wants to like turn the clock back to like 19 fucking 70s. And it's like we can never make any forward progress. It always has to be Silver Age this and Silver Age that. There can be no forward momentum.
Yeah, and that's a problem in and of itself.
Yeah,
Um,
it very much is. It's the
yeah,
worst thing ever. 'Cause it's
because
like,
then you get into like the member berries thing, which I mean I don't think is a separate issue. I think that's just like kind of I don't even want to say a symptom, but it's a symptom that you also see in with this whole like pop culture kind of thing, um, or this much rather phenomena where geek culture kind of like permeates pop culture, and some of these characters, uh, I guess you could use the term become iconic, in the eyes of pop culture.
yeah,
Um, it's kind of bizarre, uh,
yeah,
because I definitely I still to this day think that Um, Once something gets popular, that is the second it kind of starts to die. That's like my hipstery, you know, like chai latte take when
No,
it
no,
comes to superheroes
absolutely.
in
Yeah, like
comic books.
absolutely. Like
Um,
when something goes from indie to like mass pop culture, it loses some of that individual like flavor that made it like so popular with the indie crowd to begin with.
yeah, and that's kind of the weird thing about uh, comics and pop culture. Um, I think the like it's such a contradiction. Um, Everyone who writes a comic book or draws a comic book and they introduce a comic book character to the world, or at least the world of geek culture, the goal is for that character to be the next big thing, to be the next Superman, the next Spider-Man, the next Spawn, the next big, you know, uh, the next big trendsetter in comics. The But the thing you kind of run into, or I guess this problem that's inevitable, is once that character not only becomes popular within comics, but becomes popular within pop culture, like a movie or a TV show that's received very well critically, commercially. Um, that I guess iconography uh, crystallizes the character to a point where they can't really grow beyond that point because that's what the audience views as that character, and any deviation is heresy. Like, oh, you did it wrong. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Perfect example would be Sam Raimi's Spider-Man,
yeah,
or you can literally pick any one of the big three superheroes, but no, specifically with Spider-Man and Superman, Christopher Reeve Superman
yeah.
and
I
Spider-Man.
mean, the big
Pick
one is Christopher Reeve Superman, um,
um,
and I like those movies. I like them a
the
lot, but
first two, yeah, the
there's a
first two
tinge
are.
of, well, no, I like the first two. Uh, I,
I mean, the one with Richard Pryor is kind of funny and a schlocky sort of like. I mean, it's not
Ooh.
the worst thing. I mean, it's. I'm
It's
not
not as bad
saying
as
it's
Superman
like
4, but it's
good,
not as
but
good as
it's like
Superman
it's
2.
kind of funny. I mean, no one's saying like what was it the fourth? The fourth one wasn't great, but it's like the first two are solid. The first two really are, but like it's after the first two, they become sort of like like just sort of like kind of like
it
almost
it
like
starts to get really
popcorn movie
bad.
type. Very much so, yeah.
um, but yeah, no, like it is kind of that thing where the Superman movie comes out, that becomes a definitive take on Superman. Even though it is a take on Superman, it is it's not comic book Superman. And even then, by that point, you get to the '70s. That film is kind of ripping off of the Silver Age pretty hard. Superman, by the time you get to the Silver Age, is not. He's pretty fairly divorced from what Superman was when he was first introduced in the '30s.
Very
Um,
much so, yeah.
but that sort of like fuddy duddy patriarchal kind of figure is what um, Donner was playing with, and I think it worked very well for that film. But the character Superman does kind of, at least as far as pop culture goes, uh, they kind of crystallize. Ironically, because that movie's all about fucking crystals and shit. But that movie kind of like crystallizes an image of Superman, um, which the pop culture I don't think has really been prepared to break free from. Which was very telling because I remember when Man of Steel came out and everyone kind of like freaked out about how like this movie's dark and blah blah blah, and Zack Snyder wanted to make Superman a a dark Homelander who wants to eat babies and rape women because it's bad. But like that movie's no darker than like any Superman comic to come out the past like 30 years.
It isn't. It isn't.
I mean
But people aren't reading the Superman comics. They're just remembering Christopher Reeve's
it's no darker
Superman
than the
run
animated
in the
series.
70s.
In fact, the animated series gets way darker than Man of Steel ever did. So like I don't know, man.
It does, but like these people who are complaining, they're not actual like. I feel like they're not actual like Superman comic fans or Superman Christopher Reeve fans. And it's like, I would never see Christopher Reeve snapping necks. It's like, well, there are other versions of Superman. Like you have to look outside of that just one version. They're
Yeah,
incapable, or they just don't want to.
and I really think in the sense that Superman's having this major problem with um, his pop culture identity, you're gonna see that affect a lot of these Marvel characters really hard in the next, say like 10, 15 years. Um,
Definitely.
I mean, you're starting to see it now, really, because you brought up Iron Man just a couple minutes ago, and I mean, there have been
I
Iron
mean,
Man runs here and
yeah,
there that I think are interesting. Like I
the
think the
Fractions one was pretty solid. Yeah,
yeah, well, I like Fractions run a lot. Although Fractions run is very hindered. I don't no no not hindered, because I do like some of the uh, I guess you'll say um, synergy syner, synergetic compromises that are made to have the comics reflect the films at the time. Um, and how he kind of like incorporates a lot of that stuff with the repulsor technology and um, basically making General Electric and Exxon and all these other oil companies extinct. Um, I think that idea is very fascinating, and that builds up to like the Hands of the Mandarin, which I think is a really underrated comic, but it's only underrated because nobody reads Iron Man.
yeah. He doesn't sell well, does
Yeah, which is weird because like he's this generation's Superman, but
he? Right.
comics still sell worse than Superman, which is a damn shame because I
Indeed.
think the current run is fantastic by Christopher Cantwell and Cafu. But that's also the thing, there are so many people who I think were introduced to Iron Man through the movies who are reading or like getting into Marvel comics currently. They just have this like bitter repulsion uh, towards Cantwell's Iron Man, and they're like, "Oh, why is Tony Stark like depressed? Why is he? Why does he have this god complex? It's so gross. Why isn't Iron Man quipping?" And it's like, well, I mean, in the movies he does that, but in the comics, Tony Stark is like a manic, depressed, sad boy. That's like his whole thing.
Manic Depressed Sad Boy was like kind of like present. Like, the Five Nightmares happens to be one of my favorite comics, and it's like he's constantly worried about like present and future and all the threats and destroy Earth. And of course, a man like that would be consumed with the work with the is, and it's like so he doesn't always have time to be funny. He's worried. People don't want to see that.
Yeah, I mean, even like Hickman's run on the Avengers, you see Tony Stark really grappling with that god complex that he has with putting together. I think is it the Cabal or the Illuminati?
It's sort of like a combination of both, but it's like it's it's
Wait, no, the Cabal is
it's
X
the
Men.
Illuminati,
Yeah, I
but
think it's the
and then
Illuminati.
Namor makes the Cabal.
Oh yeah, yeah. Namor makes the Cabal and yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, so you have Tony making the Illuminati, um, and that's like oh like it's him reacting, which is Tony's entire character, which the MCU like captures perfectly. Um, and I really like MCU Tony Stark, but the problem isn't MCU Tony Stark. I think the problem is people latching on to the most superficial elements of MCU Tony Stark and resisting any further, uh, I guess, characterization that defies that caricature that they have in their head of Tony Stark.
No, no, I think I know exactly what you mean. They
Yeah,
latch on to the most superficial versions of like the Playboy and the kitsch they should be focusing on the fact that Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man is kind of a control freak who's scared of the future because he can't control what he doesn't see coming.
yeah. Which is
And
ironic because you have the ultimate futurist afraid of the future. I think that's fascinating. I thought that was handled very well in Age of Ultron. Um,
It is, yeah.
yeah,
Actually, people sleep on Age of Ultron, but it actually, like his son, because in this case he ends up taking the role of him, actually, Ultron. He ends up his son ends up essentially destroying the world, or trying to destroy the world. It's like what he fears. He fears his creation or a future that he controls or doesn't control end up like in the ass.
yeah, that movie's really good. Like,
People sleep on it.
I'm
People
not a
very much sleep on it.
I'm not a big Joss Whedon guy, but like once I get past the Whedonisms, um, I really enjoy that movie. I think it's really good. I think it's really well written.
And
Um,
I ask you, do you think it's better than the first Avengers movie or worse?
um, it's kind of weird. I don't know. Part of me likes it a lot because I like seeing the Avengers kind of interact with each other as the Avengers, but
Mm.
I don't know. Um, you,
No, it's
I'm gonna
fair. It's
cheat. I'm gonna
fair.
say that Civil War is my favorite Avengers movie because it legitimately is like my favorite. It's like
Yeah, it's
the
an
one Marvel
Avengers
movie,
movie.
not one Marvel, but it's like one of the few MCU movies that utilizes the Avengers cast and it feels like an actual Avengers comic story.
It does, and like the crazy thing is, it's called a Captain America movie, but it's a straight up Avengers movie, and I like it. Some people go like, "Oh, well, it's essentially it's just Avengers 2.5," and I was like, "Well, who cares?" Honestly,
Well, that's also
it's
that also goes
it's
to like
really
the Marvel tradition of I think so many people when you think of iconic stories in Marvel and DC respectively, you kind of have to keep in mind that the Marvel universe was conceived of as a universe, whereas the DC universe is like a patchwork of different characters that is Frankenstein into a universe. So a lot of iconic DC stories take place within those characters, like solo titles, whereas you have major character moments for like say Captain America or Iron Man or Captain Marvel, whichever one you want to pick because like there's like five of them. um,
like Captain Marvel. There's only one
y-
Captain Marvel to me. Fawcett Cities. Who cares?
you
There's
did
only
not grow up
that.
with Marvel. You
No, Fawcett City. The
oh
original
oh
blue
yeah.
dot. That's the only Cap. I don't care if he is called Shazam. That's the only Captain Marvel I recognize.
I mean, I still think that that whole name dispute thing is really dumb, but
Well, it very much is. It very
but
much
I mean, I can go on that for hours. But yeah, no, but the thing I was saying, like, I think that whereas DC characters, all their like iconic stories take place in their titles, Marvel characters don't have that. A lot of the iconic stories take place in the Avengers or
is.
in the X Men or in sorry, the Defenders or it's always a big team book thing. Like you don't find out about weapon like the Weapons Plus program is a big reveal, not in a Wolverine book, but it's a big reveal in X Men. You know, um,
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that like people kind of like the drama of Scarlet Witch and Vision, a lot of that unfolds in the pages of West Coast Avengers. There's no Vision Scarlet Witch book where that happens. That's in the Avengers. Um,
Speaking of
and I think the
Scarlet
MCU did
Witch
that
and
very well.
Quicksilver,
Sorry, go for it.
no, I was just gonna bring up the whole. They didn't do the Ultimates version, but it's fine. Whatever.
Oh, oh Jesus, wait. What else was version? Well, that's also kind of a thing. Uh,
You know what I'm talking about.
of no, tickle my
The
pickle for a
Ultimate.
second. What's up?
You don't remember in Ultimate X-Men Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver how they're very close as siblings?
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, uh,
I it's so funny because I remember like years ago, Elizabeth Olsen did an interview with I think Collider, where she basically said that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have the same relationship that they have in the Ultimates, and I
She
was like
did.
very
Did wait? Did she really say
yeah,
that?
she straight up said that. Um,
Oh my god.
and
Does she know, or
I
was
was
she just?
weirdly excited to see that. Um,
Oh
but
my god.
I guess that got put on the cutting room floor. Which again I kind of get. This kind of goes to
Oh
the
yeah,
crux
you're
of
not gonna show that in a Disney movie.
yeah, and that kind of gets to the crux of what like I guess this topic is. 35 minutes into this
Right.
video, uh, um,
I was just following your lead. I was just literally anything you brought up. I just wanted to like talk. I mean, because honestly, I didn't. Because the thing that's exactly what I told you yesterday. I was like, I don't know. We should start early because we're just gonna ramble, me and you.
well, that's
I
the
was like,
fun part,
I
the
don't know where
rambling.
this is gonna go. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't know where this is gonna end up, but it's like we're talking about Elizabeth Ult. Does she even know what the Ultimates like relationship was? Because
Yeah,
it's like,
so based off the interviews that I've seen, Elizabeth Olsen's like a dork. She's actually a comic book
kind.
fan, so that's yeah.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I feel like these people, like when they're supposed to be in a comic book movie, like the people, like their uh, handlers probably tell them what they're supposed to know because like there's this stuff that she knows and she talks about that you think, okay, well she maybe knows about House of M and everything. But if she talks about the ultimate relationship, does she know what the ultimate's relationship was? Because that
I mean, she did like a whole
PG.
video. I mean, it probably just you're probably right, and I'm probably just being like optimistic, but in the video I watched, she was kind of going on about how like interesting she thought like a lot of the like she did like research for her role, so she read a lot of stuff.
I heard about that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
heard
which I mean
about that.
a
She was
lot of these
talking about how
characters.
much she loves
Yeah, and a lot of these
House of
actors
X and
do.
whatnot.
To be fair, um, but yeah, no, that it's what it's really interesting that she kind of said that because at the time I was like, oh, that's gonna be really interesting, um, because like I guess one of my biggest problems, not problems, so like one of the things I kind of like me being the like entitled fanboy that I am, when I watched the first Avengers movie, I was like, oh, this is like a PG-13 version of the Ultimates where we basically take the premise of the Ultimates and say, yeah, but superhero industrial complex is good though, which misses the point of the Ultimates, um, kind of. But
No, it doesn't. It very
yeah,
much.
and even then, like they kind of touch on similar themes that the Ultimates has in Age of Ultron, but just I don't know what one of the things that really just kind of hits me as I get older and I see more people kind of reacting to uh, the like what they like and what they don't like about superhero movies and adaptations and whatnot is that I don't think people want superhero movies to be like superhero comics.
No,
Um,
not not at all. Because superhero comics are a lot
yeah,
more
because in the
complex
comic book you
than
can get
the
away with
real.
a lot more.
You
Um,
can, yeah, you can.
but like this is a world, but like this is a world where the Amazing Spider-Man movie came out and people were like, "Ah, you made Spider-Man emo and edgy, and why is Peter Parker such a jerk to everybody?" And it's like, well, it's kind of it, it's Spider-Man. Um,
You know, I've revisited
like
the first Spider-Man movie. It's not as bad as people say. Like people go like it's okay, but it's actually not that bad.
I mean,
I mean, the second one
that
it's kind of
yeah
like weird and it's not great at all. But it's like
yeah.
people just weren't ready for that version of Peter Parker. I think they're more ready for the Amazing Spider-Man now than they.
Well, yeah, but that's also kind of the weird thing, I think the pop like the general audience kind of wants something a little more reductive than what I'm at least used to with superhero comics. Um, like they want Peter Parker to be like the uwu soft boy, like oh my gosh, hi, I'm hanging out with the Avengers. When really that's not Peter
Sam
Parker's
Raimi,
characterization at all. That's not.
Sam Raimi mixed with like a bunch of the Ultimate stuff, which was fairly Ultimate version, as we said. But yeah,
Yeah,
just
but again, it's that thing where you you can't you can't do nearly as much uh, interesting character work and lore building with a comic book movie that I think you can with a comic book. Because okay, at the end of the day, um, the average person watching like these Marvel movies and DC movies, they don't want to like sit there and you know, oh, the creator has like this introspective take on Superman, and heavy is the head that wears the crown. No, they want to turn their brain off. They want to veg out for 2 hours, and they want to watch a fun, entertaining, light like superhero adventure. That's what they want. Which
Yeah, because if you give them something more complicated, they rebel. And I mean, if you give them Hulk directed by Ang Lee, they go like, "What the fuck is this?" It's like, well,
exactly,
this is a Hulk comic, but in movie form. It's like, well, I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
exactly.
Like, well, what do you want?
Well, they want Hulk on Sakaar naked, talking about how he's the strongest Avenger.
I
Um,
mean, say what you will about Thor Ragnarok, but it's funny because the Ang Lee movie does tell a better story, and then well, okay, so here's the thing about me. I haven't seen the Incredible Hulk movie in a while, but I remember the first time I saw it that I actually enjoyed it. And I was like, well, isn't this what you guys want? But they were still unhappy. It was like, you guys don't know what you want. You don't know what you want from a Hulk movie, so you complain when you get anything. Like, what what do these people want from a Hulk movie, honestly?
well, they
Just
want
for
a
him to
they want a
buildings?
fun superhero movie, but the Hulk's not a fun superhero. Um, in fact, I think Joss Whedon
Exactly.
kind of put it best in an interview a couple years ago, where he said that the Hulk is like one of the tricky things with the Hulk is that what the audience is going to the movie for contradicts what the protagonist Bruce Banner wants. Bruce Banner does not want the Hulk to emerge and wreck everything, but the audience is itching to see the Hulk break out and just like destroy downtown Washington D.C. or San Francisco or the financial district of Manhattan or whatever. Um, and that's kind of why I assume there hasn't been a Hulk movie since the first Incredible Hulk. Um,
Well, that because also
and also
Marvel or
the
Disney
legality of it
doesn't want it
all.
yet.
Yeah,
Legality. That's
but
yeah.
no,
People want a Hulk movie.
yeah, exactly. But that's also kind of the thing. I think a lot of people, um, again, it's that general audience thing. They and I don't mean this in like a disparaging way either. It just kind of is what it is. I think people just kind of want fun, light, rompy action movies, which I think is fine. That's me kind of like mellowing out like as I get older, I guess, um, and just kind of recognizing what these things are, just kind of designed to be, and I appreciate that. But the and I don't have a problem with that. But the problem kind of comes in for me when the comics start to mimic the movies, which are watered down versions of what the comics are. That's when I kind of run into a problem. But it's that weird situation where, like, a lot of these superhero characters, and not even just superhero characters, but like comic book characters in general, um, are like household names now. Like, if I went back and told like edge lord guy liner wearing trench coat in like the middle of summer, rocking mystical green beanie, uh, that like John Constantine would be sort of a household name, I would, I wouldn't, I would be beside myself. But the negative trade off, I guess, is that John Constantine kind of has to become like a less gritty, less grimy, um, sort of discount Doctor Strange kind of character in order for that to happen. Um,
Are you hating on my man Keanu?
well, no, not Keanu. Like just in general, like if you look at anything Hellblazer related in comics,
Mm,
it's
no, I get
it's mirroring a lot of that like CW kind of like twee. Oh, I'm Johnny Constantine, and I get to hang out with the event with the Justice League, and oh, isn't aren't I so cool? Because I don't smoke cigarettes,
bullets
but
and whatnot.
I put them in my mouth and I talk about how I used to smoke. Like, that's not John
Yeah,
Constantine at all.
it's very deep.
But
It's very it's
yeah, but
deep.
that again, the character's super popular now, but the negative trade off, I guess, is that he kind of had to be watered down in the general public's eye to be popular. But the the problem isn't that. The problem is the comics are now trying to ape what the movies and TV shows kind of did. Not movies, but like the animated movies and the live action shows kind of did to make him connect with the general audience. That's kind of the problem. Um,
No, I guess that's why I'm worried about Sandman. Honestly, like
so
I
far I've heard
remember.
Sandman's really accurate.
Well, see, that's the thing. I only ever got to read one Sandman comic. Like it was years ago, back when I was a teen. I was planning on reading the whole thing before the Netflix show comes on, but just between me and you, I don't even plan on watching the Netflix.
Really?
More, well, I mean, I know people say that it's very good and that it's a,
I mean,
I'm more
Gaiman's directly involved in like the writing of that show.
oh, he is?
Yeah, yeah, like that is from what
Oh,
I understand, that is basically Neil Gaiman's baby.
oh
Um,
shit. Actually,
I mean, one of the trade
okay,
offs is
well
that
then I'm gonna read the comics before I,
okay, definitely do that because the comic's really good.
yeah.
Well, the comics the comics very slow.
No, no, that's the thing.
uh,
I remember reading a couple of them years ago, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it was kind of deep. I was like a teenager, but I was like, oh shit. But I planned on reading the whole thing. I was just worried that like Netflix was gonna do that thing where they Netflix.
no, I mean my boss
Um,
is like a massive Sandman, like Neil Gaiman nerd, and
well,
she was beside herself when she watched the first couple episodes, and I mean I take her, you know, I'm gonna take her word over anything because she's read the entire thing like cover to cover and like read all the stuff in that universe, um, and like has a deep deep appreciation for a lot of that lore, so you know if she says it's really good, you know, and I've only read the Hellblazer stuff and like some of Swamp Thing, um, and I think the beginning of the Lucifer series by Mike Carey. Um, I've read like a fraction of what she's read, and if she says it's
I
great,
guess.
then it's great. I'm sure it's great.
No, no, the only problem I have is that like okay, so I was a huge fan of the Cowboy Bebop anime, and
Oh
then it
Jesus
was like
Christ! I'm so sorry, you poor soul.
mm, when they made it that live action thing, I was like, don't get me wrong, I love John Cho, I really do. But then when I started watching the show and I watched the whole thing, I was like, yeah, soulless.
Wait, hold on a second. I think your mic kind of chat itself real quick.
Shit, is it? Are you not kidding me?
Okay, there you go. I can hear you now.
Yeah, I just the Netflix show was just like it wasn't great, and it was just like God damn it, you take some time to
Well,
it out.
well, that's also the thing. I think a lot of uh, comic book fans, myself included, this is the lesson I had to learn. A lot of things comic book fans need to kind of, I guess, accept is that not everything's gonna be for you.
Yeah,
You know, and
yeah,
that's
that's
not
not.
even like limited to comic book movies. That is a comic book thing. You know, like with all the fucking like comic skate and like all those dudes where it's like, oh, they made this character gay. It's like, well, were you reading that character? No, but because it exists, I hate it. It's like, well, shut the fuck up. Just move on. Like, you
I
know,
mean, I don't.
like
Mm,
I see so many people, and I think this is like a general geek culture thing that we're seeing kind of explode because geek culture's turned into pop culture now. Um, so many people uh, jump on this like it's bad because I don't like it. It's not to my sensibilities, and because of that, it's bad. And it's like, well, no, it's not bad. It's just not for you. Um, and I mean, this is like not really anything new in comics, um, because
Yeah.
I don't know, you've always kind of seen that kind of thing where something happens, and like a news site picks up on it, and it's like, oh well, this is happening with Superman now, and people are like, oh they're ruining Superman, and it's like, well, are you reading Superman? No, I don't even like Superman, but they're ruining him. It's like, well, what the fuck's the problem? You know, um, like I remember like a lot of people freaked out about like the Zack Snyder like Justice League stuff, and then you ask him
Superman
like, okay, well,
mobs.
do do you even like DC? Do you like Superman and Batman Justice League? And they're like, well, no, but like I know what's good and know what's bad. And it's like, well, then it's not for you, jackass. Just keep it moving, keep it pushing.
Yeah, I
And
yeah,
that's been like so I guess uh exacerbated, um baited, but that's gotten like so much worse now that geek culture's kind of exploded now, I guess.
here comes some people telling how sometimes they have a point, but a lot of times.
Wait, what happened? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, it's just people complain about things that you know for not even reading or considering. It's like their themselves not Superman. It's like, what are you complaining about? You weren't reading Superman.
Exactly. Or even like complaining about something that like isn't for you. Which again, I mean, I'm like guilty of charge of that. I think like my most popular video on my channel is me bitching about Spider-Man Far From Home. Um,
Oh, you weren't a fan? I mean, a lot of people weren't fans.
I mean, like it's just, I mean, it's
I
not
mean, it
Spider-Man
wasn't
to
for
me,
me, so
but like,
I didn't.
oh wait, I didn't hear what you said.
No, no, I get what you're saying. People complain, and even though it wasn't for me, I mean, I complained a little bit. I was like, oh, it's not for me. It's for like a younger generation, the tweens. Not.
Yeah, and that's kind of thing. Like, it's not for me, and I mean, I'm glad I kind of like learned this lesson now. So better late than never. But it is kind of the thing where it's not for me, so I don't have to be mad, especially when there's other Spider-Man related things that exist. Like, it's not like, you know, um, I mean, I feel really bad for Guardians of the Galaxy fans because that just kind of is Guardians of the Galaxy now, that MCU version.
And that,
Um, but
um,
again, it's just kind of the thing of like recognizing whether something is for you or not, and if it's not for you, then you don't have to engage with it.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, there are other versions of Spider-Man.
yeah,
Anything else? I mean, like the Kraken, Spider-Man the animated series. Pick up any comic, maybe their version of Spider-Man, because there are literally hundreds of versions of Spider-Man.
exactly. Now, I will say, and this is kind of where, um, kind of loop back to that whole thing of the the the, the intellectual property snake eating its own tail,
Mm.
um, where something in pop culture really like clicks with a lot of people, and then that version becomes what the comics and video games and everything else kind of mirrors. Um, Spider-Man has this really hard, um, where Peter Parker kind of went from being this very nuanced sort of like average Joe New Yorker kind of guy, who's it's I'm walking here, as he says, as he's like in the middle of the street holding up traffic because he wants to go to a hot dog stand because he doesn't want to go to the hot dog stand that's on the street that he's leaving, as like a personal fu to him because he got into a fight the other day. Like it's that kind of like chip on your shoulder kind of thing that Peter Parker used to have. He doesn't really have that anymore because as Peter Parker and Spider-Man becomes more of a a pop culture darling, like a mass media juggernaut, you kind of have to sand away those edges and make the character a little less aggressive, because you can't have
Because
an
God
asshole be
forbid,
your mass media mascot.
for people
Um,
that make
but yeah, I don't know. It just kind of is what it is, but it is kind of frustrating when like the comics are impacted by that too.
already. You got the current Superman comic. Man has no backbone and personality. He's just one big like, hey, how do you do?
Yeah, like, that's kind of like I'm playing through the PS4 game right now, and Peter's he's very level headed,
Mm.
which is not quite what I'm used to with Peter Parker, but
It's really not. I mean, it's a good game, good gameplay, but it's for the personality of the main character. It's very inoffensive, like
yeah,
almost too inoffensive.
and like you even kind of like read a lot of the current comics, and Peter just kind of is that as well. Um,
Very much so.
yeah, and then like people kind of like get mad at you when you kind of bring that up, like, oh, it's that thing of like, oh, Spider-Man fans just hate Spider-Man. It's like, well, no, just I don't like what the character's turned into as a result of trying to pander to a mass market audience that isn't going to read comics in the first place.
It's become a vanilla latte, no sugar and no anything. Really just easy to consume by all and everyone.
Yeah,
Makes people kind of like bored with them.
and I mean,
I
thankfully,
prefer some of the older Spider-Man comics. Well,
yeah, no, you're right, you're right. Um, which is like always fun to like go back to those kind of things because they feel like such time capsules now.
I do, yeah, that's the crazy thing. I was reading some of the old Conway, some of the old Stern. I and funny thing is, I know O'Neill wrote like 10 issues, and I've been meaning to read those 10 issues. I just never never went
Wait, really? Or
to it.
what are they collected in?
O'Neill? No, well, I mean, he wrote. Okay, so you know the lost years, right? The 6 years in between where
Mm-hmm.
Conway Conway stopped writing and Stern started writing. It was
Mm-hmm.
like 6 years. Uh, Len Wein wrote for like 3 years, and then I think Mike Fletcher wrote for like
Yep.
1 year, and there was a bunch of like space in between.
Is that when Ross
Um,
Andrew was doing all that art?
he was doing a bunch of it, yeah.
Okay.
So between those 6 years, I believe Len wrote for like 3 or 4, and O'Neill wrote for say 1 year, about 10 issues. So I've been meaning to read those 10 issues because people like people have like different opinions about O'Neill, but I know that he's a quality writer. So he wrote some Spider-Man shit. It will probably be good. So I was like, that's something to like look at.
Huh.
So Spider-Man a lot
I
more
bet it
like
feels very different from what you'd probably get in like a contemporary, Spider-Man.
oh, very much so, very much so. Yeah. In fact, a regular Spider-Man fan, someone who doesn't read comics, who just looks at the popular culture Spider-Man stuff, like the movies and whatnot, would probably complain it, and they'd be like, "Oh well, this isn't the Spider-Man I know. This is bad. What is this? Who wrote this?" And I'd have to clap back to something like written by O'Neill or should be
Well, I guess like at
working
one
there.
point I would agree with that sentiment.
Mm.
Um. Well, I mean, I guess I do, but it in like a broad general sense. But at the same token, I'm also seeing a lot of people in that general audience, that kind of like that normie comic book nerd fan, um, kind of crave something a little more, you know, interesting with a little more weight. Um, and like they're reaching for stuff like The Boys and Invincible, which has always been funny to me because the Invincible's literally just a Superman comic with more blood and like cussing. That's that's
Basically,
all it
yeah.
is. Until it isn't. Um,
Mm.
but that's like way later in the series. But for the most part, it's just a Superman comic. It kind of just is a
Mm.
Superman comic. Um, and the Boys TV show is funny enough, basically the Ultimates.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I'm not sure if you can get away with half the stuff that Mark Millar and Brian Hitch were doing in the Ultimates with, uh, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, all those characters kind of being what they are now, where they're pictographs on 6-year-olds' backpacks. But no, it's weird. I'm seeing a lot of at least people who are like still kind of engaged in superhero stuff, like the normie kind of fan. They're craving something more introspective and interesting and less vanilla. But I don't know. I think when you kind of present a lot of the characters that are these kind of like mass media darlings uh, in their, I guess, I mean, I would call it their like raw, true comic book form. It kind of puts them off a little bit, which I think is
Yeah, but
interesting.
yeah, I mean, a lot of these people, I mean, they want something like actually like original, something genuine, but like some of them get put off by what actually is genuine because it's not always the safest thing. It's something that will give you like a whole new point of view. Will make you question what you thought and believe. So it's like some of them aren't ready for that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting, um, and it's also part of the reason why I just kind of like checked out of the geek culture, like pop culture kind of sphere, and just kind of focus on comics, like nearly exclusively at this point. But it is kind of difficult to, uh, I guess, ignore when you do have so many of these characters being basically like torn down and built back up to be what their pop culture counterpart is. That's kind of that's where you know I guess you kind of sort of can't ignore it.
Mm. I feel you. No, you're absolutely right. It's hard to like balance with like mass media. Or I
Yeah,
feel like the problem is they don't know what they want. They also just want to be fighting for that whole.
yeah. It's well, I don't. It's weird because I don't know.
Weird.
We even get and you see me at our local comic shop when people are like asking for like you know recommendations for characters that they like in movies, and then you kind of give them something, and then they're like, "Oh wow, this is not at all like the movie version. It's like way more like I don't want to say real, but they kind of have this. They're like, oh, you told a story. You didn't just like regurgitate the same tired, you know, film trope plots to me. You told an actual story with this character, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so I think people do want that. It's just, mm, it's weird.
It, well, that's the thing. That's kind of why I lost years because people look at those 6 years between Stearns and Conway as like, well, nothing really interesting happened in those 6 years, and I like to disagree because it was like we're talking about some of the greatest writers ever, guys like Queen, Wolfman, and O'Neill. They wrote some very interesting stories, but people don't like to talk about the stories because I don't know, maybe it just like would affect how they view Spider-Man. You know?
Are you
would be like
also
different.
are you also mad that someone is potentially slandering the name of the Grizzly? Because he's your favorite villain of all time.
He's not my favorite villain of all time. He's an okay villain, but actually, I think that's Conway. That's not Lost Years, I believe. Someone.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Um,
I mean, he's an interesting enough character. Don't get me wrong. It's people. I don't know. It's like they don't know what they want. They like the worst type of fan, in my opinion, is the person who doesn't know what they want. They know what they don't want. One is anything that will make them like
wait, I didn't hear that part. My bad.
squeamish. Anything. No, like the worst type of fans are the ones who they don't know what they want, but they know what they don't want. They don't want anything that would like make them
Yeah,
feel or like change their opinion about anything or everything. And they're the worst type of fans because it's like they're so set in to their views and everything. You can't give them anything new or anything that's original. The thing that Spider-Man started off as being emotionally complex and not always a fun, nice guy, a character who like had his problems and he reacted to them like a normal human being.
yeah, no, I think you're right in that regard. And I think that kind of like goes also just beyond um, geek culture. I think it's a problem you see in general.
Mm.
Um, I didn't work too long in the service industry, but I worked there long enough to realize I didn't like working in the service industry, and also uh, be just completely blackpilled on humanity as a whole. Um, which is probably why I ended up majoring in philosophy. Uh,
Probably.
uh, because Jesus Christ, people are not smart. Uh,
People can be the worst, yeah. I'm not
yeah.
gonna lie to you.
I ordered the chicken Alfredo, but I didn't know that this Alfredo sauce. Um, I didn't know it had cheese in it. it Man, it's Alfredo sauce.
Maddening, yeah.
It it's
It's legitimately maddening.
like oh dude, you kind of took me back to this like one YouTube video I saw like years ago. I think this was a decade ago now, when like the first
Mm.
Amazing Spider-Man movie came out, and this dude was just he was. I mean, clearly he didn't want the Spider-Man film franchise to reboot in the first place, which I get. I'm sympathetic towards that. But when he's like, "Oh man, you rebooted Spider-Man, you didn't even do anything interesting or original. Why not just make Peter Parker gay? Or what who's this Gwen Stacy girl? Why not have Peter Parker like, why is he so emo? It's like, dude, what? You, you they're adapting Spider-Man comics, and they're
They're literally, I mean, like
if you
the
just want
OG
Spider-Man
Spider-Man comic.
4, just say you want Spider-Man 4, but like I don't know, don't yeah. So bizarre.
It is, yeah.
Um but yeah, no, I don't know. I guess I was just going to want to make this video not only to get your opinions on some of this stuff cuz we talk about this like all the time, and
Mm.
I hope you got a chance to chime in. I know you're tired. I did that. I chose to do this like super late at night. I should have done this like in the
Uh,
middle
I
of the day when
no,
like we're both more lively.
I legitimately could have given you like a whole bunch more time. Like legitimately, you could have done this for I don't know how long. Because I adaptations are something I have a very passionate uh feeling about like especially when adaptations are good or even bad because it's
Yeah,
like, they don't trust the fans. They listen to what they know is going to sell. So my opinions about adaptations are very even looking at Moon Knight. I've told you how many times I hated that show because I think that the best smaller Marvel supervillains they massacred it.
let's take a character whose entire thing is that he doesn't have superpowers and give him superpowers.
Exactly. And it's like they literally just
Although
duplicate.
okay, I, I understand your problems with the Moon Knight show, and I haven't talked about the Moon Knight show because I didn't like it either. But it's one of those things where I'm sympathetic to the creative team who is working on that show because, and this is a problem that I have with Moon Knight and comics in general. Now that I'm like actually reading more Moon Knight comics, because I like absolutely love the Jeff Lemire and Greg Smallwood run, and that prompted me to go back and read a lot of the older stuff. Um, Moon Knight's okay. He very clearly is just straight up Marvel's Batman, but like in like that like twee kind of look at us. It's Batman, but like real and not stupid. But like it's still just Batman. And it's like, oh, I don't know, man. It's there's not a lot that Marvel Comics has done to differentiate the character from Batman, in my opinion, at least.
Mm.
I think you could make certain strides to separate him further. Um, but I don't know. I'm sympathetic to that creative team, but I'm also kind of irritated because I really think you could have done something. I don't know, other than making Moon Knight spawn. Um, my personal opinion, but
It was one of the. It was one of the many.
yeah, and then and that's also kind of where you, yeah, I don't know. That was like the last one that I watched. I didn't have the heart to watch the Miss Marvel show. Um,
Well, I still haven't watched it, but I feel like that show wasn't meant for us anyway.
yeah, I mean,
It's meant for like kids.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but I mean, I also kind of grew up with the Miss Marvel comic. I like that comic a lot. I think you can make a good like YA, not YA, but like a good like all ages Kamala Khan show. I think I think the character lends herself to that. Um, it's just like some of the stuff like getting rid of her inhuman power set and like dude, I don't know, just making her a mutant. Which I'm told that's what the show
Oh,
does.
she's a mutant in the show. Someone told me that. I think it was you.
Well,
She's a mutant.
I found that out like when the internet decided that Chris Claremont is canceled for saying literally the same things he's been saying for 20 years. Um,
Oh, they're trying to cancel Chris Claremont. Why?
yeah, no, just Chris Claremont said like a he didn't say anything that radically different from what he's been saying for like 20 years. Like he doesn't like current X-Men. He doesn't like what Marvel comics are doing currently. He's not a fan of the like comic book adaptations. Literally, this is all just par for the course Chris Claremont stuff. Um, but I guess that's bad now. Um,
Yeah, fuck
but
Chris Claremont. I'll always be a huge Chris Claremont fan. I don't care what they say.
no, I mean he did. No. I think someone broached the idea that Kamala Khan was the MCU's first mutant, and he just said like, "What the fuck."
Wait. Marvel's first mutant. Wouldn't Marvel's first mutant be in Sabbath Nor?
Well, for the MCU, like,
Oh, for the MCU, I
yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, no, Chris Claremont just wasn't a fan of that, and
Yeah,
among other
I can
things.
understand that. I can understand.
Yeah, but it's. I'm sure the show's fine. I like the actress who plays Kamala Khan. She has a great personality for the character.
Yeah, she seems nice. I mean, I've never seen the show again, and I don't plan on watching it. But she
She
seems
looks really
nice.
good in like the costume and like the
Yeah,
promotional material. It's just
yeah,
I know I'm not the target demographic for that show. That show is made for people who are ride or die Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of fans. Like Marvel for them, the Marvel Universe begins and ends with the MCU, and that's fine. Um, I guess my only fear is with some of the liberties that they kind of take with the character. I'm afraid of that kind of like making its way into the comics for synergy purposes. Um,
mm,
or that like those changes kind of becoming synonymous with like a sense of like iconography for the character, and then like 6 or 7 years down the line well, Kamala Khan can't be what she started out as in the comics. She has to be what the MCU dictated her as. Um, I don't know. That's just kind of my worry. Um, and that's
Well,
like not limited
whatever.
to like Miss Marvel. That's like my worry with just like superhero content in general.
Yeah. And well, no, very much so. It's what I'm worried about. Like, I don't know. I'm worried that the mass media like version of these characters overtakes a specific version of the character, especially the one that I like. Like, what if they turn Cassandra Cain into a pickpocket and kill myself? Legitimately kill myself.
Well,
If they
thankfully they won't
turn
because that movie
Cassandra,
didn't perform well at all, so you're fine.
but
Um,
imagine if that movie did do well, then Cassandra Cain goes from being one of like the best actors ever.
well, you're seeing that with Harley Quinn right now, um, where she's gotten really popular as like an anti-hero because of the um, like the cartoons and whatnot. So now in the comics, Harley Quinn has like made this massive leap to being a Justice League member, and now she's like hanging out with all the superheroes, and it's like just a decade ago she like murdered like a bunch of children in comics. We're really gonna let her be on the Justice League? Like what? What are you doing,
Makes
man?
no sense.
Um,
Or making Black Adam like a member of the Justice League. That makes sense. He's a genocidal lunatic.
I know, which is so funny because like the Dark Crisis comic just came out and said, yeah, no, Black Adam can't be a superhero anymore. That's nope, that's dumb. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
Again, I'm kind of worried if that Dwayne Johnson uh, Black Adam movie comes out, and that movie does end with The Rock being well, not The Rock, but that movie. I mean, he's basically just playing himself. But that movie kind of does end with Black Adam um, being this kind of like hero to the people. I'm afraid the comics are gonna like make that U-turn again and go like, oh well, we gotta make him look more like he does in the movie. Even though we tried that and it didn't work. Um,
More there might be this version of a good guy, which is scary. You know, he thinks he's a good guy, but he's willing to.
well, it's the Doctor Doom thing. Like Doctor Doom doesn't see himself as a bad guy; he just sees himself as a necessary evil. Um, and I mean, I
How
hope
many
that's what the
people
movie
do you have to
does.
kill before you're a bad guy?
Hmm.
How many people do you have to kill before you're a
Um.
bad
I mean, okay. I don't really think of the whole superhero killing thing in like I guess black and whites as a lot of other comic book fans do, but I don't know. I think performing an ethnic genocide, an ethnic cleansing is pretty pretty villainous, if I do say so
guy?
myself.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, just my personal sensibilities. I think that wiping out an entire race of people because you think that they're inferior is kind of bad. That's just my personal philosophy. But yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
I also think mass murder is pretty bad. I think you can make an argument for mass murder being not cash money. Yeah, I think that makes you pretty villainous
Yeah, and
and
yeah, but
irredeemable.
irredeemably bad. Yes. Well, if Loki gets a redemption arc, he
Yeah, and that's
and then grew up in New York.
okay, no. We were winding down, but now you've triggered me. That is actually like that is straight up exactly one of the problems that I guess I kind of that like prompted me to kind of have this kind of topic and like discussion. Um,
Mm,
Loki, it's kind of a bad guy, straight up
yeah,
bad guy,
yeah,
quintessential Marvel Comics bad guy. But he's played by Tom Hiddleston, who is charismatic
mm,
and hot.
very,
Therefore,
yeah,
he's not
very,
all that
very
bad.
charismatic.
Not all that bad.
Yeah,
He's ripe for some redemption,
mm,
um, which is what the comics kind of did with him in that whole like Axis era, which was
Yeah.
fucking stupid in and of itself. But like after that, Loki became like that, like the agent of Asgard and all that, where he's like a good guy. How
I
stupid.
specifically stayed away from that one. Right? I remember seeing him walking down the bridge with the hammer. I remember specifically seeing that line. They like, nope,
Yeah, no,
no, no, no, no, no.
no, 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 no.
Yeah, I was like, no. Man, that guy, you can't give it anything else. The man's that evil dude. He very much destroyed an entire. He destroyed the universe. You can't tell me he's a good guy just because he wants to be. That's not how that works.
Yeah, no, no, no. Loki doesn't get to be redeemed. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
I don't
Um,
care if he did help the Avengers during Siege. He's the one who started Siege in the first place.
well, he only helped them because like the Sentry was gonna kill everything
Yeah, and
because he like
he literally
became the
had
Void.
exactly. It's like he's not a good guy. He's a self-serving, narcissist.
Yeah,
Don't
but then you also
confuse
kind of
him.
run into the whole thing where I think culturally that kind of self-serving, narcissistic, unlikely hero archetype has become the new hero. Um,
What does
which
that pay off his time?
is kind of a problem in and of itself. I think culturally, but that kind of I don't know. We can go on for hours about that, but yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. I get a lot of people kind of asking me, um, like to talk about comic book movies and TV shows and whatnot, and I guess I just kind of I don't anymore because when I do watch them, I'm watching them less critically because I don't watch them critically anymore. I'm just kind of like doing what I think you're supposed to do, which is just turn your brain off and veg out for God knows how long until it's over, until the credits start rolling. Um, and I don't know. I just don't have that like weird kind of like entitled fanboy rage about comic book movies and TV shows anymore. Um, but that rage kind of like still comes out when I see the comics trying to mimic the movies that are just kind of like brain dead fodder.
Mm.
I accept that the movies and TV shows are like brain dead fodder, but like don't turn my comics into brain dead fodder, please. That's
They can be more than that.
yeah. If what if a comic expired to be more than what society intended?
Exactly.
Um, yeah. Thanks for coming on the show, Greg. I had like a great time. Unless you like had anything else to add.
Well, no, I was made some strong points, and that's the whole point of the whole conversation.
Yeah, man.
I, it's something that I agree with. I'm worried.
Well, I'm glad I got
Right?
to have you on finally. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again sometime.
Of course, whenever you bring me back.
Well,
Uh,
well, yeah. I mean, like now I can only do it because I have like good internet because my PC tower was like kaput for like 6 months.
I get you. I get you.
um, but yeah, no, like uh, do you have like anything to pimp out? Like any projects you're working on, social media, you know, any any totally completely 100% legal illicit activities that you would like to dispose to the FBI who are most definitely watching this podcast.
Feel like they're probably watching. Uh, I had um, I had this one project where I'm pretty sure the guys probably contemplating and or killing.
Yeah.
I know who killed. Uh,
Who who did it? Who did it? You son of a bitch. Well, I mean,
Insane drop.
well, it's more wholesome than that whole thing where you tried to destabilize the American economy by giving Africa its own currency. Um, two dictators learned that lesson the hard way.
uh, this was a conversation. I enjoyed this great.
Nice. Uh, well, thanks for having. No, I almost said thanks for having me on, but this is my show. Thanks for coming on, dude. Um,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, and hopefully we can do this again sometime, man.
Pleasure, man. My pleasure.
Well, no, it's my pleasure, and
That,
as we all
that it's
know,
my pleasure because getting to really dissect this whole.
well, now it's
Like,
my pleasure that you've been
me,
pleasured, and everyone knows I'll pleasure myself. So, thank you for allowing me to pleasure myself through your pleasure, sir.
my, my pleasure.
All right. Take care, guys. Adios, nachos. Adios.